Thanks for joining us for the KOHO 101 Community Connection Podcast, a look at business in the greater Wenatchee area.
It's the KOHO Morning Show. Nice to have you with us on this edition of the program, and great to have the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce back in-house with us as well. Their Executive Director, Shiloh Burgess, here as we continue our series of Community Connections podcasts with the Chamber. And you can find these, remember, any place that you download your favorite podcasts online. They'll be there, or at our website, KOHO101.com. There's links at the Chamber's website as well. Today, we've got, along with Shiloh in studio, Tony Hickock, who's the president of the Central Chapter of the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance. Going to be talking today about outdoor recreation in general with Tony, some of the ones that he recognizes and represents specifically here in the community with both Evergreen and also perhaps even Mission Ridge might come up a little bit today, but we've got an awful lot that we could talk about as we meander through the pathways of the subject of tourism via the outdoors here on the program today. And Shiloh, Tony, I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
So Shiloh, this has always been a piece of the tourism infrastructure here in North Central Washington. We have a lot of great outdoor spaces, great outdoor recreation, but wow, has it taken off over the course of even just the last couple of years, COVID notwithstanding. In fact, COVID actually helped the scenario, it would seem, but especially again over the last decade or so, people are really making their way to Central Washington State from not just nearer corners that are around our own state, our own neck of the woods, but also from pretty distant places too. So this is a really exciting and still burgeoning time for the outdoor rec industry here in our area.
Absolutely. When I started with the Chamber 8 years ago, the board had a couple of different priorities when it came to the tourist initiative or the tourism initiative. One was promoting and highlighting our wine community a little bit more, what was happening here in terms of wine country. And the other was outdoor recreation. And man, oh man, has outdoor recreation exploded in Chelan County. And it's pretty exciting. Some of the stuff I think we're going to talk about today, which is currently happening and what could be on the horizon. But again, going back to, where does this all come from and where does it link into our efforts? It's about people and it's about quality of life. And a lot of us live here. We were just talking not too long ago about the old days and everybody being connected to the orchard community or the agriculture community. And it wasn't so long ago that folks in the outdoor rec community came to the Chamber and said, I really think that outdoor recreation is now the community connector that agriculture once was. Meaning when I grew up, probably 7 out of 10 kids were connected somehow to farming in this community. And now when you talk to folks about why they're living here and their quality of life, I would say at least 7 out of 10 are connected to the outdoor resources in this community. Both of them are based in natural resources that are here. We need good stewardship to balance that out, to balance the use as well as the beauty that comes and the habitat that's so important. But it seems to be a connector, a community connector. And how does that then translate into our tourist experience? And we've always tried to promote the region from a values base, which I'm really excited to be talking to Tony because I think there's a lot of values-based decision-making happening within Evergreen and what they're promoting along with our trails connected to our quality of life, which is exciting. But if we bring someone on the trail that shares the same, if you will, values as you do, and protecting that trail, being, a nice, friendly mountain biker or trail runner or walker, hiker or equestrian or whatever it may be. If you're kayaking or skiing down a slope, you might not think they're from out of town. You might think they're just your neighbor in the other part of the community, which is great. And we want to try to build a culture essentially around outdoor recreation and how we utilize and support these assets. So Evergreen has been a big leader in that. So thank you for joining us today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance is actually the largest statewide mountain bike organization in the country. We have over 9,000 members across the state, and the Central Chapter is rather large, but is based around our community here in the greater Wenatchee Valley, from Wenatchee to Leavenworth to Chelan. But really, part of the heart of the chapter is in the Wenatchee area with Squilchuck State Park, Number 2 Canyon, partnerships with CDLT in the Sage Hills and the trail systems there. New pump track in East Wenatchee, maybe another new pump track really soon coming into the Wenatchee area as well. So we have over 700 members here locally in the Central Chapter. And we as an organization are dedicated to making Washington the best place to ride. And furthermore, the Central Chapter specifically is focused on community development through trail building. And that's what we really are passionate about. I mean, obviously we love to mountain bike. It's in the name at the end of the day. But what we really care about is providing opportunity and access for our community to get outside and to enjoy the trails.
I think that's a really important part, because it's, you say your community, it's not just the mountain biking community. You really have built trails that accommodate a wide range of users in these areas around Wenatchee.
Yeah, I mean, mountain biking is the mechanism that really got most of us out on the trails, as far as folks who are involved in the chapter right now. But at the end of the day, whether you mountain bike or hike or you ride something else, we really all love the connection to the outdoors. Mm-hmm. And the trails are the mechanism. The trail infrastructure is the mechanism that allows us to go from our front doors, outside and out into our greater community. And, so something that we've really started to say a lot more recently is helping more of our community explore their community. And that's just such an important thing, because that's what we're passionate about. And we want to share that, but we also want to share that in a way and provide the opportunity for folks to experience that in a way so that it'll be around for a long time. And that's something that I think is, a huge focus for so many folks, if not everyone, in the outdoor recreation space.
Tony, how has this equation changed over the course of recent history? Again, we talked at the outset about how blossoming this is, I suppose, and it just continues to swell. It seems like, if you ask me, I mean, we see an uptick in tourism numbers of this variety every single year. Every season, we just get more and more people. Again, people that are here in the region already, people that are coming in from outside the region. But what are the things that have changed the most about this over the course of recent history? Because there's a lot of moving parts to this, obviously. Stewardship is one of them that I know Evergreen's hugely involved with, because if we don't have someone that's keeping an eye out for these trails, that's keeping an eye out for this infrastructure you referenced, and trying to maintain it, take care of it, perhaps even provide suggestions, getting together and doing things to help the trail system, then it doesn't go on and it doesn't progress. And I think one of the neatest opportunities that this may have, as opposed to any other form of infrastructure that we could think of within our community, or any community for that matter, is that it's almost steward operated. I mean, it's almost user operated in some way. It's almost user developed, if you will, because you guys get together and have parties for these sorts of things. The people that are involved in this, as you said, have a great connection to it. So I would imagine that's one piece, without getting off my own trail here. But what are some of the things that have changed along with that over the course of just recent history that have become bigger moving parts in this than were in the past, perhaps, when we would only just go and use U.S. Forest Service trails, for example, that were maintained by the government?
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on it nicely there. We've always been dedicated to building sustainable trails, and that's really at the core of what we do. But as time has gone on, and certainly the last couple of years specifically, we've been more and more focused on other aspects of helping, provide access and understanding about how to access those trails that are being developed, or the trails that have been around for a long time that are being maintained. Because that's the other piece of it. We think of ourselves, and I think we're given credit for being trail builders, but really, as much or more of the job is about just maintaining the great trails that are already here and have been here for a long time as well. So, trail building, providing sustainable trail building opportunities is huge. Maintenance of current trail infrastructure is a huge piece of what we do, and only growing with more use. And the other thing is providing opportunities for people to get out on the trails. And so education has become a really big part of what we do here from an Evergreen statewide standpoint, but especially here in the Central Chapter in the Greater Wenatchee area. 3 years ago, we had just 3 education camps for mountain biking clinics for kids and adults. We have over 20 this year. We had our first classes in Spanish this year. We had our first ever mother and child class to kick off our actual education season this year. So just some really amazing things led by an awesome team of education folks who are really leading that charge. And like I mentioned earlier, helping more of our community get out and explore their community through the trails and through mountain biking specifically.
I'm not sure if this is an accurate statement. I think it is, just based on the Chamber's experience working with Evergreen, who was a nominee for Nonprofit of the Year. That's nothing to sneeze about. But I think about the collaborative spirit that Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance has within the community. And I think it speaks to that education model, but I think about all the land managers, a lot of good things that we're seeing today related to our outdoor rec culture, whether that's understanding our outdoor economy, whether that's looking at the Tread Map app that is now going to go statewide, really was birthed, I think, around some of the leadership that occurred within Evergreen and the desire to create more trails and help people. I love what you said, helping more of our community explore more of their community. But talk about that collaboration for Evergreen, because I think you do have some really incredible partners that you help meet a need for them, but in turn, you're then helping meet a greater need within the community.
Well, to the extent we've ever been successful in achieving our goals, it's only because of the volunteer support that we have. Like I mentioned, it's over 700 members here in the central chapter. And it's really, we're primarily or almost exclusively a volunteer organization. And so it is because of the volunteers who put in their time and their passion to make these things happen. But beyond that, it's our relationships with the local land managers, whether that be on the federal, state, or local level, and them understanding that we have that support from the community, from our volunteers, but also from the business community as well. And so it's that real inner working between Evergreen volunteers and the community support and business support and working with the land managers. And, like I said, to the extent that we've ever been successful, it's because of those things. And, we are able to do a lot of amazing projects like the No. 2 Canyon project because of those relationships. And obviously it takes a really strong relationship with the Forest Service, and the county is a big part of that as well. But they trust us, I believe, in large part because they know that we have the support of the community.
Tony Hickock with us today. He is the president of the central chapter of the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance, here with us today in studio along with Shiloh Burgess. It's a continuing series of Community Connections podcasts we're doing with the Chamber. Again, you can find these online. Any place you download your favorite podcasts at our website, KOHO101.com. Also at the Chamber's website, they'll have links to those too. How about maintaining the integrity of the very nature itself that the users come to enjoy, that the users actually seek when we talk about things like parking? I mean, this has been a huge issue on so many trailheads, it seems like lately. There's a lack of parking. So if parking is looked at as a piece of infrastructure, we have to literally pave over some of that green space that people love to enjoy. Not much of it probably, but still, when you talk about more and more usage, you're probably going to be talking about more and more rest stops, more and more restrooms for people to use while they're on the trails, things of that nature. So that has to be a piece that you're cautiously observing and watching too, to make sure that, yes, you're placing things on these trails and around these trails that people do need in order to utilize them safely and effectively, but at the same time, you're not also spoiling their experience, so they're coming across a porta potty every 15 feet on the trail too.
So I think something that's so amazing about this community is that it has foreseen a lot of these changes years ago and came together as a community to start to chart the path forward and to direct the change. And so we've seen more and more organizations and businesses working together to make sure that we are best prepared as we reach these milestones. Things like COVID definitely, changed the pace of that growth as far as outdoor recreation use. But this community knew that it lacked a lot of outdoor recreation infrastructure, like parking at trailheads and developed trailheads with restrooms, et cetera. And so more and more organizations, whether, Evergreen and Tread, working with cities and counties, and different organizations, we're all working together to address those needs and have been for a while now. And it's a process. But as we look to, continue the development of trail systems, that's a very big part of it, right? And I think No. 2 Canyon is a really great example. It's not just a bunch of mountain biking trails. It's mountain biking trails and hiking trails and all of that, but it's also, improvement of the road. There will be bathrooms, better parking, and at the end of the day, it's all meant to reduce the overall impact on that outdoor resource that we want to enjoy and protect.
I would echo what Tony's saying about proper prior planning prevents poor performance, if you will. And it's been a goal of this community when we looked at our tourism efforts to really be established as the recreation destination in Washington, right? When we look at leisure travelers, we knew it was going to happen to us or through us, and we wanted the through us so we could try to preserve and influence that community quality of life element. And so making some strategic investments, one, understanding our outdoor economy and knowing in a state that is full of scarcity, which is amazing to me, but when it comes to access and trails, Chelan County has a plethora. We have over 9,000 trail miles. The next county, which is to us is King County with a little over 6,000. So we have the highest amount of trail miles in the state here in Chelan County. Part of that is because we have the highest amount of publicly held land. So when you look at that, and we know that's there, we're naturally, based on our infrastructure, going to attract people to come and play here, which is fine. But as a chamber that's responsible for the tourism marketing, we are constantly working with our partners to say, how do we create that stewardship mentality, right, amongst our visitors, amongst our locals, especially those that are brand new to recreating. And that's the coolest thing. It's that double-edged sword. Is we have a lot of people that went out and recreated for the very first time thanks to COVID and being stuck indoors, because that was a safe thing to do. And so how exciting that they have now learned about more parts of their community, but there's a lot more parts of their community they could go do this. They just aren't aware. So in comes Tread and the Tread Map app. And so we are hoping that we are able to create a culture either through the app or through the community, through our tourism efforts and how we communicate to our locals as well as our visitors, and how to steward and shepherd these places. When to do certain activities, when not to do certain activities because of habitat or because it would cause trail damage, or, what other options are out there. That's a great trail, but did you know just down the road, like 3 miles, there's an equally as great trail? I mean, that's the cool thing is we have a plethora of option, but not a plethora of knowledge yet about what's out there. And so we have definitely worked as an organization to try to create and understand, how we can shift the traveler's behavior, how we can shift some of our locals' behavior, and how we can work collectively within the organizations to find, if you will, the right size, right, for the assets that we have, and then the right investment level and what are we willing to do. We have a really unique opportunity, I think, right now to make some strategic investments in our outdoors and our trailheads. We're doing it with our trail master plan work that Chelan County is doing for the whole county, and how we can be collaborative as communities, as we can be collaborative as DMOs and as user groups that love this space. And so just the education factor, right? I was thinking about e-bikes, right? How e-bikes, electric bikes are changing, the ability to go farther and get people that before weren't actually able to ride a bicycle now back in love with maybe a childhood pastime that they had because they have a little bit of assistance. And that's exciting, right? But it's also, going to change some of the use of the system. And these are all great things, but we need to work together to make it fit for the community. And it's great to have partners like Evergreen to do that with.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that people wouldn't know that it's not okay to leave a plastic bag or bottle all on the trail when you're out there. But again,
there are no ferries that come behind you and pick them up.
And Shiloh, you're talking about people that, again, through the pandemic and otherwise are deciding to pick this up. They're deciding to do this for the first time potentially, and they may be going from the mall, quite literally, where there are things that are there for them that are more part of a different infrastructure. So this educational piece is a huge part of it. And Tony, as far as that educational piece is concerned through Evergreen, we've talked about it kind of all along as far as how it threads into the general message and what you do there. What about directly as far as education is concerned? Is there anything you're doing as far as stewardship, intervention is concerned within the community at all right now? Or?
Really from an education standpoint, we're really focused on the actual act of biking right now. Stewardship of the resources and of the trails is just something that's baked into what we do, and we try to lead by example through that. And really, what we do from a stewardship standpoint and education on trails is being out there, maintaining the trails, and just being good users, and trying to demonstrate that in real time.
I think that is so key, because similar to having a road cyclist who understands the rules of the road when they're riding with cars, you want the fastest moving object on a trail potentially, or the second fastest if it's not a dirt bike, to understand, what they need to do to keep themselves safe, as well as if they come across another user, if it's a mixed use area. And so having Evergreen get people comfortable with the bikes that they're using, as well as what to do in multiple situations, it's awesome that that's happening. And it's awesome that it's, a family activity, as well as, just friends getting out there and going together, and that it's expanding generationally now because of e-bikes and other things, and taking that on and seeing that level of interest. It's just great to have good partners that are helping people do it the best way they possibly can, so that we can all be safe and have fun out in our nature.
And, that's where I think the Tread Map app can really come into play, especially for this community. As Shiloh mentioned, having so much land in public ownership and management, it's also a lot of different land managers as well. And some things can be different depending on where you go. Squilchuck is a state park. Number 2 Canyon's on Forest Service land. Sage Hills is, CDLT. And so they, where you go might be a little bit different about some of the rules and some of the best practices and some of the requests that you're asked to follow. And so that's where something like the Tread Map app is going to be so important as more and more people get on it. It's already an amazing resource, but we really would guide folks to that and know before they go out on the trails or on the water or wherever they're going in our community, because that's just such a great resource to give you the tools that you need to be successful in having a great time outside.
Absolutely. Talking with Tony Hickock today, president of the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance's Central Chapter, along with Shiloh Burgess from the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce, their executive director, part of our Community Connections podcast series with the Chamber. Again, download these online. Any place you download your favorite podcasts at our website, KOHO101.com, and links on the Chamber's website as well. Tony, Shiloh, I appreciate the time very much. Thanks for sharing a little bit. And I know we'll be talking to both of you again down the road real soon, especially you, Shiloh, here even sooner.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'll see you out on the trail.
This is the KOHO 101 Community Connection Podcast. Check back often for a continuing look at business in the greater Wenatchee area.